And they are calling on the Foreign Affairs Ministry to try and act fast. Adib Saani is a security analyst, so he understands all of the issues happening now, the tension between Russia and Ukraine. We'll go into the international dynamics shortly. But first of all, let's deal with the demands from our own, the Ghanaian students resident in Ukraine. They want a land evacuation. We know, at least for now, that you can't fly in or out of Ukraine. That's not possible. But they are calling for evacuation to be done through Poland, and they are asking for Belarus and some. Help us understand the dynamics, really. Is land evacuation possible as of this moment? Because we need to do something and act fast.
Absolutely. It is possible. It is practical. It is feasible. Just that it's dangerous. Even if air evacuation was possible, I wouldn't advise that to even happen in the first place, because anything that flies is seen as a threat, whether it is on the Ukrainian side, whether it is on the Russian side. Let's not forget that MH17 was shot in eastern Ukraine by separatists supported by Russia, resulting in the death of about 293 passengers. And when the U.S. killed Suleiman, Iran also intended firing back in the end. They downed a civilian airplane. So at this point, flights is a no-no. However, the road part of it, you know, if you are going to evacuate on land, that could also be dangerous, because considering the fluidity of the situation, we need to really tread cautiously before you move. I don't know what the Ghanaian government has done, whether they've indicated to the Russians or the Ukrainians our intention to move students. If not, they could be potential targets, I must say.
I'm sure that you've been monitoring the parliamentary debates, the arguments from both sides of the House. We've seen the minority side starts the call for evacuation. The majority is obviously telling us that that would come at a cost. Should cost be of concern at this moment?
Absolutely. And I mean, it beats my imagination how anyone can even bring this up, because it's the responsibility of every government to ensure the safety of its citizens, whether they are home or abroad. Okay, I thought there was even a window of opportunity for us to explore at the beginning of the crisis, when Western intelligence all had information that there was an imminent attack. So at that time, we could have successfully, without issues, evacuated. Unfortunately, here we are today. We seem to be reacting.
Are you suggesting intelligence failure?
Absolutely. And we have a research department that is supposed to gather the necessary research and let us, you know, make decisions in a much more informed manner. Unfortunately, there seemed to also be an intelligence failure on our part. Even if it were so, Western intelligence, British intelligence, American intelligence, all pointed to one thing, that Vladimir Putin intended attacking. So before the attack, some countries evacuated their citizens, but we didn't. So at this time, cost should be the least thing we should talk about, because in the first place, we have even failed the students. So whatever resources government has to bring to bear to ensure that these Ghanaians stranded there are safe, we have to do it without recourse to whatever cost.
So I guess the concern now is about the best strategy possible in getting our interest out of Ukraine. That's the challenge now. Yes. What's the strategy for you?
Okay, good. I think that considering how volatile the situation has become, it's a war situation, for crying out loud. Things can de-escalate, things can escalate further. Right. Okay, so I would suggest that they hunker down, take advice, respect the necessary protocols until such a time that it will be safe.
You mean respecting the protocols from the Ukrainian government?
From the Ghanaian government, because I understand some directive has been given right. With respect to carrying backpack. If you want to go anywhere, you should have your Ghanaian passport and and all that. So that is the information we should be giving them. But if you make an attempt to move them, unless it is a concerted international effort to get people out of that area. But if we want to do it our own way, trust me,
We're helpless, you mean?
We're helpless, I must say,
right.
Unfortunately.
That's how unfortunate it is, but there are many who believe that the Ghanaian government is complicating matters the more. We are, of course, taking our seats now, our turn now, as non-permanent members of the UN Security Council. We've made a statement condemning Russia, who's been, deemed as the aggressor in this case. Given that situation, it appears that we cannot even evacuate our students, if we want to do that through the land evacuation, into any part of Russia. That's not possible because we seem to be siding with the West in this case. So what else will be the option now? That's how dangerous our statement is.
I do understand that, but you see, Ghana has maintained some level of non-alliance.
Yeah.
Since time immemorial. Yeah. And the core is very much consistent, in line with many other countries who have called for Russia to withdraw, because it is a flagrant violation of international law. Right. If we had gone there to say any other thing, trust me, people would have looked at us against us. We didn't have an option. We didn't really have an option. Right. Besides, we're a country that believes in the rule of law. Right. We are an example to many other countries, even within the sub-region. So if we go and say anything otherwise, we might lose that respect we have. And if you follow the news closely, I've said it, that Ghana should, I think this is an opportunity for us to demonstrate leadership. Okay, usually when it comes to these geopolitics, we are seen as the flies, the small boys. We really don't have the small boys. We have some level, minimal though. Right. Okay, but I think that with our membership at this time in the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member, we could take it upon ourselves and get the various factions to return to the negotiation table. I do know, some might find this laughable, but I think that we have such a strong, influential position within that international space, and we can leverage on that to push that agenda.
Help us understand the dynamics as we speak. In fact, there are reports that Russia has invaded Ukraine. That's been the operative word, the media reportage out there. But technically, there are those who are contending with that description. So for those who are not really in tune with the facts on the grounds and what it is that is involved in this tension, what's happening between these two countries, really?
Okay, so prior to 2014, there was a government in place that was very much in tune with Russia. And in 2014, there was a revolution that ended in the president getting ousted. Then a new government in place, which is so Western inclined, decided to divert their attention from, Russia to the West. But today, the trigger effect to all of this is the fact that Russia doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. You see, there's an Article 5 of the NATO Charter that says if you touch one, you touch all. So what in essence it also means is if Ukraine joins NATO, America can move all of its arsenal into Ukraine. So what Russia is seeking to do is to prevent that from happening, is to create a buffer between the East and the West, because nobody would want to live with an enemy being a neighbor. You get me? Because what in essence it would do is to give Americans the opportunity to, in the future, stage attacks against Russia. So Russia doesn't want that to happen. Aside that, there's a large Russian-speaking population in Ukraine. And since 2004, there's been fighting between separatists who are supported by the Russians in Donetsk and Luhansk. Okay, so what Putin is saying is, I'm sending troops to Donbass to help the Russians.
Proximity,
right. But now it has become something different. So there are two things to what is happening. One, Putin might, take over the country, install a puppet regime, and create that buffer. Or, like it happened with Georgia. I just want to prove that. I want to prove that. Yes.
I was just about talking about the Georgian experience, and for those who've been following issues of international security, it takes you way back to the 60s, the Cuban crisis, similar to precisely what's happening now.
And I'm happy you brought this issue. I'm happy you brought this issue because nobody would want his enemy to be close to him. So the Americans saw that, no, the Russians were establishing such a foothold in Fidel Castro's Cuba.
Right.
And so they got some Cuban dissidents based in America, supported them with the with their weapons, and they went on the Bay of Pigs invasion, which was a catastrophe.
Right.
Similar thing happened with Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela recently, even though the U.S. authorities say, hey, we are not part of it.
Right.
So that is exactly what Russia is seeking to do. Under Vladimir Putin, we've seen 4 waves of NATO expansionism into Eastern Europe. This was unthinkable in the past. Right. Now we have all those countries becoming NATO members. So Russia is saying, enough of it. We are not going to allow that. And when you follow Putin, you would realize that he's someone who has been very much opposed to the way Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin ran the country by allowing these small countries to get away. So he's also seeking to reassert Russian authority and might in the area. When you listen to Western media, dwindling force, Russia, this. So I think it's a clear message he's also sending to the world.
Trying to assert the authority of Russia.
Absolutely.
In fact, we've heard from non-influential countries, and I'm using that word advisedly, such as Ghana, who are not really permanent on the Security Council. But key voices are yet to speak. At least we know the position of the West. Key voices in the East, such as China, are yet to, but we know where they are likely to lean on this. Exactly. Obviously the other way and not with the West. What's going to be that impact, not just on the world, but particularly here in Ghana and across the African continent as well? A lot of people have been asking that question.
Well, as you might be aware, oil prices, the Brent crude went by over $100 a barrel. We've never seen that since 2014. Obviously, when it goes up on the international market, it's like our BDCs are waiting for it to go to everything. But when it comes down, they are adamant. Okay, so what it means is, just recently we had fuel prices breaking the 8 almost, and perhaps what is happening could even make it break the 9. And when prices go up, it affects everything. Cost of living would go up and all that. And we also know that Russia and Ukraine, although they make up for only 2% of the global GDP, but they export a lot of wheat. And a lot of these North African countries rely on it for bread. And bread is a political issue in North Africa. Omar al-Bashir was overthrown when bread prices went up. That is what caused all of these demonstrations. And if things escalate and becomes a global issue, we might be forced to take sides.
Let me bring this dynamics of the instability within the West African sub-region and the dynamics out there with the Russian and Ukraine tension. Many have not really put an eye on the influence that could have on the wave of military coups that we're seeing across the West African sub-region. Just a recent one from Guinea, we've seen there are claims of Russian interference in that process. Now that global governance is taking a backseat, the concern is that that wave may further radicalize across the West African sub-region. What's your take on that, Ray?
Okay, so we don't just have the Russians in West Africa. We have them, a lot of them in North Africa, including Libya and other places. Currently, the French are not happy with the Malians. because Operation Barkhane has persisted for God knows how long. Still, the militants are active. They are even getting stronger by the day. So the Malians thought that, hey, we have to look to the east. So they brought the Wagner Group, which interestingly is making gains, believe it or not. And in Burkina Faso, after the coup, when people came out in the streets to jubilate, you had them carrying Russian flag. So Russia is, like it is doing in that part of the world, globally is trying to reassert their authority. And a lot of countries might fall out with their, long-lasting fellows, such as the French countries who have that long-lasting relationship with with France. So a lot of them might fall out. So that is a really a major issue that has to be looked at from that perspective.
So what's your fear for security in West Africa? Is there really a connect? I guess that's the question there.
Yes, there is a connect. There is a connect because when countries resort to the use of mercenaries, it becomes a game changer. You see, you would have others also bringing in their mercenaries. And by the way, the whole world is turning mercenaries, so to speak.
What's your basis for saying that, really?
most of the powers have their mercenary armies.
Right.
The US might not call it mercenary, but Blackwater, for crying out loud, is a mercenary army.
Right.
Okay, the Turkish have theirs, who have been fighting in Syria and Iraq for some time. The Saudis have theirs. The British, it's all over the place. So when it happens that way, it might complicate the already fluid security situation we have in the West African sub-region.
Right.
And already there are underlying issues of human insecurity and the fact that governments are not able to really address those issues that the people keep talking about. So it would rather complicate the
Ghana's national security obviously should be of interest to you as well,
yes,
in terms of the strategies that we need to adopt in these trying times. What should that be?
Well, I think largely it will depend on government, how much they are willing to ensure that fuel prices don't spiral out of control. I think that is the major issue we would have. When fuel prices goes up, everything goes up. So if government is able to manage it by even putting in place subsidies, I think that can help. If not, it would pose an existential human insecurity threat to the country. Already, a large chunk of the population live below the poverty line, a lot of unemployment in the system, so much anger. And recently I was telling a friend of mine, he's in government, I was like, you politicians, disguise yourself and sit in the taxis and the trotros and hear what people say about you. So this might deteriorate people's living conditions, because living conditions will, of course, be much more costlier. And that is the biggest security threat I see, because there's a direct correlation between human insecurity and fiscal insecurity.
And what I know is that, obviously, you're not a prophet. You could make some predictions at this point. How long will this go on?
Well, this morning, the last time I checked, the Russians were about 10 kilometers outside of Kiev. Western intelligence have said it already. They said that if Russia intends to go into Ukraine, it's just a matter of days.
Yeah, right.
So I think that it's just now a matter of days, not weeks, for Russians to completely take over the country. But two scenarios: either the Russians would withdraw eventually after serving us that letter, so to speak, that, hey, we are still in charge.
Right.
Or perhaps they install that puppet regime and create that buffer they've so longed for.
Adib Saani, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. In fact, that's not all. We're talking security as well, because crime appears to be taking a new form these days. In fact, it's becoming more sophisticated and becoming more prevalent on the internet. Already, the Ghana Police Service says it is taking proactive measures to deal with a growing trend of fraud across the country. Fortunately, Adib is not gone. He's here with us. The Ghana Police Service would also join us online to talk about this. We have Superintendent Alexander Obin, who's also acting Public Affairs Director of the Ghana Police Service, joining us in this conversation. Thank you, sir, for your time. So how is this trend looking like from your table in terms of the statistics that you have? Are you receiving more reports of fraud online, and what's the new trend it's taking? Well, and even before we have Superintendent Alexander Obin, I'm sure that Adib has also been watching all of these new trends as well. But we have a report for you, a very short one, capturing all that's been going on, and then we'll have Adib's take on this.
Economic and Organized Crime Office warns of emergence of online scammers taking undue advantage of unsuspecting public in the guise of doing business with them. According to COP Mamitiwa Adudankwa, Iyoko has in recent times observed a rise in cybercrime and has been working with telecom companies to identify and crack down on those behind the practice. She says putting an end to the practice will require collaboration between National Investigations Bureau, police, Yoko and other security agencies.
If we don't stop it now, it will get to a point where people would have lost money, and you understand what it means to us. People are crying. Some of them are committing suicide because they had invested so much and they have lost their money. And now it becomes an issue not only for the police, and sometimes it is for the government too. Because when they enter and things don't go well, they come back to the government and they say government should pay the money. So we shouldn't allow it to happen at all. That is why we should work hard. Any information that we get, we shouldn't take it for granted. We should work on them. And together, Yoko here, BNI here, national security here, police here, everybody on the ground.
COP Mamitiwa Dankwa is on a working visit to the Ashanti region. She has been meeting heads of NIB, police, and the Attorney General's department in the region. The meeting, which seeks to foster collaboration between the agencies, is to promote law and order. Yoko says it is working to clamp down on online scams, but has cautioned the public against the re-emergence of Ponzi schemes.
People set up investment online and then they tell you to bring money and that you earn so much interest. At the end of the day, when they've been able to get some people to collect their money, they shut down the platform and then you can't find them again. So we check and we realize that these organizations are not registered by BOG, they are not registered by Security and Exchange Commission, and even not by the Registrar General. So it's just some people who have devised those means to take money from people, and majority of people are vulnerable. They hear high interest rates and then they go for it. So we advise the general public to not to fall victim to that. If you want to invest in any organization, you need to do a little bit of background check. What is this organization? Is that organization registered, licensed by the regulators, Bank of Ghana, Security and Exchange Commission? And that is when you invest. We are also trying to look, and we can't even find them. They are just online. You know, the cyberspace is like that. It comes with its own anonymity. You can't find the people. They are not registered. So, but we are still working around the corner, working with the telcos because they are using mobile devices and then telephone numbers. So we are working with them to find out who are those behind those online scammers. And at the end of the day, the law will have to take its own course.
Security agencies and the AG's office in the Ashanti region have pledged their support to Yoko. First is the Ashanti Regional Police Commander, DCOP Afobwachi Yadom.
We are going to offer her the necessary support for her to be successful. Definitely, when you bring the work, we will work. It's going to be on a daily basis. Immediately you bring it, it's not as if it's going to lie down for this time in a week. Doctors leave this office.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohiminteria reporting.
So that's the indication we're getting from the Economic and Organized Crime Office. But we also need to hear from you out there. What's your recent experience online in terms of fraud, and what do you have to share with us? Feel free to call us now, 0302-211-691, or 2. You can share your concerns with us. Adib Saani is still here, so obviously he'll be able to give you some guidelines as to what you'd be able to do to contain that. But you've seen the statement from the Economic Crime Office. Do you feel that they're up to task in cracking down on this trend?
Absolutely. We need to build that institutional capacity. There needs to be commitment on the part of various stakeholders. That is why it's important that they just don't look inwardly, but they get in touch. They reach out to other stakeholders within that fold so we can see how collectively we can improve security. But there's this very common phenomenon on Facebook and other social media sites that it's imperative our viewers know of.
Right.
The sale of items. These days, what they do is you buy the items, you pay, then it's never delivered.
Oh, really? That's a trend now. You buy items, you don't get them.
No.
So you pay for the service, and yet you won't get that in return.
The offer is too good, you become desperate. They did that to a lady who saw a furniture set, very beautiful, going for 2,000 cedis, something that cost about 15,000 cedis.
Interesting.
She paid and it never came, so she came what we could do to track the person. But the thing is, when she went to the page later, the owners of the page had actually disabled the comment section. So this is a very important information our viewers should note. Never ever buy from an online shop that has disabled the comment section.
But you see, Adib, that's the era in which we are today. If you want a service, all you need to do is to run onto the internet, get one of these applications, and place your order. At times, you even make payment, and you have the products delivered to you. Are you saying that you're not encouraging online trading? Is that the point?
If you can walk to the shop, fine. However, we want convenience, okay? So if you have no option or you prefer that convenience, there are two things to watch out for. One, the comment section, to ensure that other people have bought. Even though there's a possibility they could have their people commenting, all right? And whoever comments negatively might be deleted. But the next thing to do is to ensure that you never effect any payment until you receive the item, inspect it, and ensure that it is what you paid for or you requested before you make that payment.
So what they do now, and help us understand this, so they give you a price tag which is way below how much it is that you would indeed get your product on the market.
Exactly.
And then what's next? What do they do, really?
Okay, so they ask you to pay before the item is delivered to you. And sometimes, like I indicated, people get desperate. And after you pay, they block your number. You would never be able to get in touch with them
again.
And some of them actually open fake accounts.
Just for that purpose.
Fake accounts, just like the chain stores you know of.
But let's see if there are similar concerns about what you're raising now. Unfortunately, Dan is joining us from Cape Coast. Dan, what's your experience really? Dan, if you can hear me, I'm asking about your experience.
Yes. All right. So my experience was I bought a NASCO TV from Malcolm, and
Dan, you would have to turn down the volume on your radio, your TV set, I should say. Yes.
I bought a NASCO TV from Malcolm. And I had a warrant, a year warrant. I think after 3 years, the TV spoiled, and I called Malcolm for repairs. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you, Dan.
Yes, I called Malcolm for repairs, and then
Dan appears to be having a challenge, but you could still reach out to us. Seidu is joining us from Cape Coast. Seidu, what's your experience? Yes, Seidu, let's hear from you.
Hello. I'm saying that I was transferring money from my bank to my wallet. Then it landed on somebody I mistakenly wallet. Yes. So I mistakenly sent it to somebody's wallet. Then when I called her and I said she didn't see any money in her wallet. And I'm having all the details with me here. So I don't know how I'm going to deal with that one.
Interesting points there. It appears that you sent.
I'm telling you. So now I'm having all his pictures, his ID card, numbers, and other things are there. But the fellow is called Grace.
I can imagine how hard it is for you now. Seidu joining us from Cape Poly on that with your experience. Your experience is that you sent money, you didn't really. You sent it to a wrong person, actually. And the earlier one from Dan is indicating to us that, similar to what you were saying, Adib, that they give you a price of a product, you pay for it, and you seem not...
You never receive it.
Fine.
But the second caller, I mean, sometimes it does happen. Severally, some of us have been called, I mistakenly sent you money. Can you send it back to me? So even if you mistakenly send someone money, the person would think you are one of those guys.
Yeah, it's because of the trend we are seeing now. Let's hear from Frank as well. Frank is joining us from Pando in the Volta region. Frank, let's hear you.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Frank.
Yeah, I am mobile money user at ATM. Some people call my line. They say they send money to my account, and they told me they suspend my line, so I should go to mobile vendor for them to restore my line. Before I realized, they withdraw money from the mobile vendor, 990. They told me the code is 990. I should tell the mobile vendor. So they withdraw money from the mobile vendor account, which I have compared to pay to the mobile vendor. And when I reported to NTM line, they said they will do investigation from last year, October, 10th of October up to now. That I didn't hear anything from NTM. So they are attempting again to fraud me. They call my line. They say they put money into my account. So when we reported to NTM, they say they will do investigation. They are not doing. So I want a help to how can we track down these people who are defrauding us through the line. Thank you.
Frank, we're grateful that you've been able to share your experience with us.
So if you let the public know that those who call them that they transfer money to their account, you alert. Okay. I have two numbers. One bear Janet Assembly. The money go to his account up to now. They say the line is deleted. I reported to NTM. They didn't block the line. The line is still working.
Frank, we understand your concern. I guess that's a challenge that you're facing. But let's do the last call from it's from Paul. Paul is in Takwa. Paul, what's your story as well?
I met some of these guys online. We started the business. They sent me pictures of the items I am requesting for. Then later on, they demanded for part payment. I've made part payment, and the items were never brought.
How much did they give you a price that was below what you would normally get on the market?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So they gave me 1,001. So I've sent the part of the money, but the items were never brought. So I kept on calling, and then they also kept on refusing to take my calls. Right.
And I can see that you're also laughing about the situation and how these guys really go about their activities. But just stay with us on the Journey channel. Adib Saani has some tips for you, what you need to be on the lookout for, what you need to actually do to address them. Yes, Adib. So you've heard all our callers.
I'm going to the CID headquarters for your information.
Wonderful.
Someone was duped to a tune of 230,000 Ghana cedis. And
that's a lot.
That's a lot of money. So you would need help from the CID. So after this show,
what would you really advise? What's the tip?
Okay, the first thing is to report to the police because these guys are serial scammers. Okay, they might be doing it to several other people. So it's important that the police knows. But I think it is also imperative that whatever you do, you think about it. Does it sound right before going ahead to do it? For example, paying before the item is brought to you. I think we must refrain from doing that. Sometimes these guys...
Okay, so you ensure... what you need to do is to ensure that before you pay for any item at all that you are ordering online, make sure that you go ahead, ensure that you see the products for yourself, take it, inspect it, make sure that it's safe, and then you make the payment.
Because you might see the pack, but in the pack is not a phone.
That's an interesting one too. You could open up and be surprised about it.
Exactly. Sometimes when it comes to you are happy, then you pay the rider and off he goes. And sometimes they also call, make it look like you've met them before. Oh, don't you remember me? Okay, I now work for a water company. And we need some chemicals. So I'm going to connect you with the white man. You would call him.
That's how the story normally starts. We'll continue this. Just hold on for us. Superintendent Alexander Albin is joining us via phone. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So we understand that crime, fraud is taking a new form now. What's the reports that you're receiving on your desk at the Ghana Police Service, and what would you advise the public to do? Hello, Superintendent.
Hello.
Yes, I was just asking about the new forms crime is actually taking and fraud is taking as well.
I'm not the one.
Well, it looks like there's a mix-up there. A caller also sharing his experience with us. We're still working the lines to have Superintendent Alexander Obeng join us. But here we are. And, it's unfortunate that he will not be able to share his experience, but just as you were indicating to us, the first thing you need to do is to go to the Ghana Police Service,
exactly,
and then lodge your complaint.
Complaints, but
the concern is the police service in itself is not equipped enough to deal with these cases when you take them there. You go to the Ghana Police Service, for instance, and you file a complaint, and some of the officers really don't even care about the situation.
True. It's true. A lot of people have complained. As a matter of fact, I even know a gentleman who was robbed and never reported to the police. In security studies, we have what we call the broken glass theory. As minor as an offense it is for a glass to be broken, if it is not looked into, next time it could be murder. So I think it's also imperative on the part of the police to attach seriousness to these cases brought before them as part of the confidence building measure that has been implemented by the new IGP. I think gradually, I mean, we are not there yet, but gradually we're getting there. A lot more Ghanaians are beginning to have confidence in the police service.
Okay, we need to be wrapping up on this conversation, but Dan will be giving the very final opportunity to also share his story. I think Dan was having a challenge earlier when he called. Dan, let's hear you out. Okay, some terrible line there. But Adib, let's get your final word to the listeners on this matter.
Okay, I think we need to exercise a great deal of circumspection on social media. Let us not click everything we see online. Sometimes they send us the link. They are phishing sites. So when you tap on it, they are able to collect your data. And if you discuss shoes with me, the next time you go on social media, you see
shoes all over the place.
And that is how they get you becoming interested. So I think it's always important that we think before we act.
Okay, so let's deal with the Ghana Police Service. Let's see what they also have to tell us. Superintendent Alexander Obeng is joining us. He will provide us with some public education on this. Good afternoon to you, sir. We understand that fraud is obviously taking a new form now, particularly on social media where a lot of people are having challenges. What's your report? What's the report you're getting, indications you're getting on your desk at the Ghana Police Service?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think where we are, all of us should be part of this general sensitization of the general public, because the ICT revolution is everywhere because of this telephony capacity and the fact that majority of Ghanaians are gradually becoming compliant, and therefore I pray that the media will support in this direction so that the issue of the use of